Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive, specifically for you fans of Vintage Car Chronicles. You can catch us every day on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, and YouTube. And today, we're going to be diving into the history of the Chevrolet Camaro.
Ah, the Camaro.
That's right.
The iconic American pony car.
It went head-to-head with the Ford Mustang.
It did.
From its birth in 1967
All the way.
to its modern-day muscle.
Absolutely.
We're going to be taking a look at the milestones, the models, and that cultural impact that makes this car a legend.
You know what I find so fascinating about the Camaro? It's just this constant evolution. It's almost like a mirror to the American automotive landscape over the decades. You know, you've got oil crises, emissions regulations, changing tastes, and yet it's always managed to adapt.
It has.
It's really a testament to its staying power.
All right. Let's rewind all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
Picture this 1964. The Ford Mustang explodes onto the scene and takes everyone by surprise.
Especially GM.
Especially GM. They were caught off guard.
Yeah. Well, I have to remember, before the Mustang, sporty coupes were kind of a niche thing.
Right.
And the Mustang's success was like a wake-up call.
Like, hey,
There's a market for this.
there's a huge market for affordable performance.
And GM had some serious catching up to do.
Yeah, they had to scramble.
They did.
So inside Chevrolet, Project XP 836,
Codename Panther.
codename Panther, kicks off.
The Camaro's coming.
The Camaro is in its very early stages.
And you know, that urgency really shaped the first Camaro. The designers, they were aiming for sleek and sporty, but they really had to lean on existing Chevrolet parts and platforms, you know? Speed was key.
They had to get to market.
They had to.
So 1966,
Yes.
the Camaro makes its debut.
Big day.
Big day.
It had a range of engines on offer.
Including that 396 V8,
For the SS model.
but it was still trailing the Mustang.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a heated rivalry right from the start.
Right out the gate.
This rivalry between Camaro and Mustang really became like a defining characteristic of the pony car world, I think.
It pushed them both.
It did. It pushed them both to innovate constantly. And that's ultimately great for buyers.
So let's talk about this first generation.
Okay.
1967 to 1969. This is when that Camaro DNA was really cemented.
The Camaro found its groove.
What stands out to you the most about these models and options?
Well, you had the RS,
The RS?
which was primarily an appearance package.
Yeah.
It had those hidden headlights,
So cool.
right? And a really sporty aesthetic.
Hidden headlights were a big deal back then. You
Yeah.
know, they added a touch of mystery and performance.
And then you had the SS.
Yeah. The performance beast.
I saw a restored 69 SS at a car show recently.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible. People were crowding around this thing.
Yeah.
What made it so special, technically speaking?
Well, the SS was all about power. You know, it had either a 350 or a 396 cubic inch V8,
Wow.
churning out somewhere between 295 and 375 horsepower.
That's a lot.
It is. But it wasn't just about brute force.
It also had an upgraded suspension and a really robust rear axle to handle all that torque. You know, the SS was built to dominate.
Those stoplight drag races.
Exactly.
A true test of American muscle.
Oh, yeah.
For me, though, it has to be the Z28,
The Z28.
born for the racetrack.
Uh-huh.
It had that legendary 302 V8.
Yeah, wasn't that a clever workaround for some of the racing regulations at the time?
Yeah, the SCCA Trans Am series had a 5-liter engine displacement limit.
Right.
So Chevy's engineers, they were clever
They were.
and designed the 302 specifically to meet those regulations.
And it was a masterpiece of compact power. You know, it was high-revving, solid, lifter camshaft, large valves.
It's all about airflow.
Yes, and it produced an impressive 290 horsepower.
Precise, that's quite a feat.
It was.
They basically engineered their way around the rules
They did.
and came up with a high-performing legendary engine.
Quite a story.
Let's not forget those Copio Camaros.
Ooh, yeah.
Special order models packing those massive 427 engines.
Like the Yenko Camaro?
The Yenko Camaro. These things are practically mythical creatures in the car world now.
They are. They're incredibly rare, and they are highly sought after by collectors.
What's fascinating to me is the Copio system,
Central Office Production Order.
Central Office Production Order. It was originally intended for fleet orders,
Like police cars.
police cars, taxis. But some dealers,
Smart dealers.
they were sharp
They were.
and realized they could use this system to order Camaros with these high-performance, non-standard engines.
That was like a secret backdoor.
A secret backdoor.
Extreme performance.
They accidentally created a legend.
You could say that.
So we've seen the Camaro's birth,
They.
the rise of these iconic models.
Yeah.
But what about the second generation? This is an era of significant change for the auto industry.
It is. It is the second generation spanning from 1970 to 1981. This is where the Camaro had to adapt
It did. Yeah.
in order to survive.
And it gets a major makeover, right?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
These cars have such a distinct look.
Significant redesign for sure. The body becomes longer, wider, more aerodynamic. You know, those classic Coke bottle curves.
Yes.
A dramatic shift from that first generation's boxier style.
It really defines that era.
It does.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing.
No.
You have the oil crisis,
Uh-huh.
stricter emissions regulations.
Really throws a wrench in the works.
It does. How did they deal with that?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. You know, the muscle car heyday is kind of fading.
Yeah.
And the focus is shifting towards fuel efficiency,
Right.
lower emissions. Engine performance takes a hit. The horsepower wars were put on hold.
On hold.
Yeah. And automakers had to find creative ways to meet these new regulations and demands, but, you know, still keep that sporty image.
But the Camaro pulls through.
It does. It adapts and survives when so many other pony and muscle cars just fade away.
It's a survivor.
It is.
What are some of the standout features and models of this generation?
Well, you've got those split bumper RS models
Yeah.
from the early 70s. Those are really distinctive.
Very unique.
And then in 77,
Yes.
we see the Z28 make a triumphant return.
Oh, wow.
Now, granted, it didn't have as much raw power as that first generation ancestor.
Still a welcome sight.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I can see why people celebrated that return.
Because even in this changing landscape,
Yeah.
there was still a place for performance.
It's like this glimmer of hope
Exactly.
for enthusiasts who thought the muscle car era was over.
The Camaro wasn't going down without a fight.
So it navigates the turbulent 70s,
Uh-huh.
proves its resilience.
It does.
What about the third generation?
Well, that's when it really embraces modernization.
Okay.
And that revival of performance.
Okay.
The third generation, 1982 to 1992.
82 to 92.
This is a turning point. It adopts a hatchback body style,
Oh, wow.
which offers more practicality,
Right.
cargo space,
Makes sense.
introduces fuel injection.
For efficiency.
Yes, improved performance, and really emphasizes handling and driving dynamics.
Okay.
This is a shift towards a more balanced, well-rounded performance car.
Instead of just straight line speed.
Right.
And 1982 was a big year for the Camaro.
Huge.
Ultra Trend's car of the year.
That's right. A clear sign that the Camaro was back on top.
And then you had the Aero CZ
Oh, in 1985.
in 1985.
Yeah. High-performance variant,
Named after
the International Race of Champions.
the International Race of Champions.
This model came with tuned suspension, upgraded brakes, and a very distinctive appearance package.
IRO CZ.
So much cool factor
So much cool factor.
packed into 3 letters.
I have a friend who's restoring one right now.
Oh, wow.
I can't wait to see it when it's finished.
Yeah.
Speaking of futuristic features,
Uh-huh.
that digital dashboard in the Berlinetta model,
Oh, yeah.
what were they thinking?
It's a great example of how the Camaro was always pushing those boundaries of design and technology.
Right.
Not all of it stuck.
Not all of it.
But, you know, that willingness to experiment,
Yeah,
that kept it fresh and exciting.
absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the fourth generation, 1993 to 2002. What defines this era for the Camaro?
I think of it as refining the formula.
Okay.
You have this evolutionary design
Right.
with a much sharper focus on aerodynamics and driver engagement
Uh-huh.
and under the hood.
Oh, the power is making a comeback.
That sweet V8 power.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, this generation sees the introduction of that potent LT1 V8 engine,
The LT1.
later replaced by the even more powerful LS1,
The LS.
an engine shared with the Corvette.
Wow.
And the SS returns,
The SS returned
the performance package.
for the Z28, offering a serious boost in performance.
And it has some fierce competition at this point.
Oh, yeah.
The Mustang is evolving.
Ah,
The Dodge Challenger re-enters the scene.
good times to be a muscle car fan.
It really was.
The pony car wars were heating up again.
They were.
And, you know, this generation of Camaro
Yeah.
really held its own.
Yeah.
Offered some impressive performance.
Yeah.
And a much more refined driving experience.
It's come a long way.
It has...
From those early days of trying to catch up to the Mustang,
Oh, yeah.
what about the fifth and sixth generations?
Ah.
Those modern muscle cars that we see on the roads today.
Well, the fifth generation,
Yes.
starting in 2010,
2010.
marks the triumphant return of the Camaro after a 7-year hiatus.
It took a break.
It did, and it arrived with a bang.
How so?
Well, it had this retro-inspired design
Okay.
that paid homage to those classic first-generation Camaros.
I love that look.
Right. But with all the modern performance and technology that you could want.
So It took what worked,
Uh-huh.
brought it to the modern era,
It did?
and they backed it up with some serious muscle,
That
right?
I did, that 6.2-liter V8.
The 6.2 and the
It's
SS.
pumping out over 400 horsepower.
Over 400.
It was a statement.
It was.
A statement that said the Camaro's back.
And it's better than ever.
And then you have the ZL1.
Oh, the ZL1.
2012.
Yes.
That supercharged beast hits the scene.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Most powerful production Camaro ever built at the time. How much horsepower are we talking?
Over 580.
That's incredible.
It wasn't just about beating Mustangs anymore.
Right.
This car was going toe-to-toe with serious sports cars from around the world.
And then that Nürburgring lap time.
Oh, yeah.
That really silenced the doubters.
It did. 7 minutes and 41 seconds
Wow.
around the Nürburgring. It was a monumental achievement.
It was.
It put the ZL1 in the same league as some of those exotic supercars.
Yeah.
It proved that this Camaro was a true all-rounder.
It could handle the corners.
It could conquer corners as well as it devoured straightaways.
It was a performance bargain.
It was. You were getting supercar levels of performance at a fraction of the price.
The fifth generation really showcased the breadth of the Camaro's potential.
It did.
You had the SS,
Uh-huh.
the ZL1,
Yeah.
but then you also had that Z28.
Oh, yeah.
Completely different approach.
It was all about track-focused performance
Okay.
and driving purity.
What set it apart?
Well, the 2014 Z28, it was built for purists. It wasn't about brute force or fancy technology.
What was it about?
It was about getting back to the basics of driving feel feedback precision.
So more a scalpel than a sledgehammer.
Exactly. They stripped out anything that wasn't essential for performance.
Like what?
Sound deadening air conditioning. Even the rear seats were optional.
They were optional.
They were all about weight reduction.
Interesting.
They fitted it with massive carbon ceramic brakes, ultra-sticky tires, and a naturally aspirated 7-liter LS7 V8 engine.
The LS7.
Tuned for razor-sharp throttle response.
Wasn't that a throwback to those classic Z28s?
It was a deliberate nod to that racing heritage, you know. The Z28 was a driver's car, in the truest sense. A car that rewarded skill and precision behind the wheel.
It sounds incredible.
It was. It wasn't for everyone.
Right.
But for those who appreciated its unique capabilities, it
Yeah.
was pure magic.
The fifth generation really showed
You did.
what the Camaro could be.
It really did.
So let's talk about the sixth generation.
Okay.
Still going strong today.
It is.
What are some of the key changes and innovations that this generation brought to the table?
Well, the sixth generation, which launched in 2016, it continued to refine the Camaro formula.
Hoi.
It was built on a lighter, stiffer platform, making it even more agile and responsive.
Okay.
And the design,
Yeah.
while still retaining those classic Camaro cues,
Uh-huh.
it became even more sculpted and aerodynamic.
The first time I saw a sixth-gen Camaro,
Uh-huh.
I thought, wow, that is a sharp-looking car.
They really did a great job
They did.
balancing heritage and modernity.
What about under the hood?
Well, under the hood, things got even more interesting.
How so?
You still had those potent V8 options
Right.
with the SS and ZL1 models, pushing those boundaries of performance.
But they embrace smaller,
They did.
more efficient engines.
Recognizing the changing demands of the market.
The turbocharged four-cylinder.
That was a significant change.
It was.
Bold move considering that V8 legacy.
Why did they do that?
Well, I think it was a strategic decision driven by several factors.
Right.
First, there was that growing pressure to improve fuel economy
Okay.
and reduce emissions.
Yeah.
Second, a smaller turbocharged engine offered a different kind of performance,
Yeah.
one that was more accessible, better suited for everyday driving,
So it was about,
broadening the Camaro's appeal,
Yeah.
attracting a wider range of buyers,
but still delivering.
still delivering a thrilling driving experience.
And don't underestimate that four-cylinder.
Don't.
It packed a punch.
It did.
It offered plenty of performance.
For most driving situations,
Yeah.
it was a great option for those who wanted a sporty coupe, but didn't necessarily want the fuel consumption of a V8.
It also allowed them to offer the Camaro at a more accessible price point.
That's right.
I've heard great things about the handling of this generation.
Oh, the handling is phenomenal.
What makes it so special?
Well, that lighter, stiffer platform of the sixth generation made a huge difference.
Okay.
This was the most agile and responsive Camaro yet, capable of carving through corners with incredible precision.
Incredible.
And they continued to refine the suspension and chassis tuning.
So they just kept making it better.
They did, making it even more capable on the track.
So the Camaro is still a force to be reckoned with.
It is.
Even with the rise of EVs and alternative powertrains.
It is.
It's amazing to think
It is.
about how far it's come.
It is.
Since those humble beginnings.
I know, from the 1960s.
From the 1960s.
To now.
To now.
It's incredible.
It is. It's a testament to that enduring appeal.
Of the Camaro formula.
Of the Camaro formula.
Yeah.
You know, it's a car that has always evolved with the times. It embraces new technology.
Oh, it does.
It adapts to those changing market demands.
It does.
But it always stays true.
It does.
To its performance roots.
It's a fascinating story of innovation.
Of resilience.
Of resilience.
And that relentless pursuit of driving excellence.
And that's what makes it so special. Absolutely. It's really remarkable, you know, how the Camaro has not just mirrored automotive trends,
right,
but really broader cultural shifts as well.
Yeah.
You know, from that free-spirited muscle car craze of the 60s to the fuel-conscious 70s.
Yeah.
And now, you know, this tech-savvy, performance-driven present day, it's always reflected the desires of its time.
It's like a rolling time capsule.
It is.
Of American automotive passion.
It is.
Speaking of passion, let's get back to those 5th and 6th gen Camaros.
Okay.
They've really reignited the muscle car flame for a new generation.
They have.
I remember when that 2010 Camaro SS concept was unveiled.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the automotive world just gasped.
It was a bold statement for sure.
It was a clear signal that the Camaro was back.
And it was ready to take on the world.
It was. And what a comeback.
It was.
That 5th generation especially was a masterclass in retrofuturism.
Oh, yeah.
Blending those iconic design cues from the 60s with that cutting-edge technology and performance. And they backed it up with some serious muscle.
Oh, yeah.
That 6.2-liter V8 in the SS.
Over 400 horsepower.
It wasn't just for show.
It wasn't.
It was a statement car.
It was.
The Camaro's back, and it's better than ever.
That's right.
And what about the ZL1? When that supercharged beast hit the scene in 2012, it was a whole new level of performance.
Oh, the ZL1 was a game changer.
It was.
The most powerful production Camaro ever built at that time.
Really?
Over 580 horsepower.
It wasn't just about beating Mustangs anymore.
It was.
This car was going toe-to-toe with some serious sports cars.
Absolutely.
From around the world.
Around the world.
And that Nürburgring lap time.
Oh, yeah.
That silenced the doubters.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
And 41 seconds around the Nürburgring.
Wow.
That was a monumental achievement.
It put the ZL1 in a whole different category.
It did. Put it in the same league as some of those exotic supercars.
Yeah.
Proved that this Camaro was a true all-rounder.
It could handle the corners as well as it devoured the straightaways.
It could.
It was a performance bargain.
Oh, yeah. You were getting supercar levels of performance for a fraction of the price.
What I find really interesting about this 5th generation is the variety.
Yeah.
You had the raw power of the SS, the ZL1,
right.
But then you had the Z28,
right,
which took a completely different approach.
It did. It was all about track-focused performance and driving purity.
What set it apart?
Well, the 2014 Z28.
Okay.
This was a car built for purists.
Okay.
It wasn't about brute force or fancy technology.
It was about
getting back to the basics of driving feedback precision.
So more of a scalpel than a sledgehammer.
Precisely.
I like that.
They stripped out anything that wasn't essential for performance. Sound deadening air conditioning.
Right.
Even the rear seats were optional.
Rear seats were optional.
They were all about weight reduction. They fitted it with massive carbon ceramic brakes, ultra sticky tires, and a naturally aspirated 7-liter LS7 V8 engine.
Wow.
Tuned for razor-sharp throttle response.
And wasn't that a throwback?
It was.
To those classic Z28s of the late 60s.
It was. It was a deliberate nod to the Camaro's racing heritage. You know, this Z28 was a driver's car in the truest sense.
Yeah.
A car that rewarded skill and precision behind the wheel.
It sounds incredible.
It was. It wasn't for everyone.
Right.
But for those who appreciated its unique capabilities, it was pure magic.
The 5th generation really showcased.
It did.
The breadth of the Camaro's potential.
It really did.
So let's move on to the 6th generation, which is still going strong today.
It is.
What are some of the key changes and innovations that this generation brought to the table?
Well, the 6th generation, which launched in 2016, you know, continued to refine that Camaro formula.
It did.
Built on a lighter, stiffer platform, making it even more agile and responsive. The design, while still retaining those classic Camaro cues, became even more sculpted and aerodynamic.
When I saw it for the first time, I was blown away.
It is a sharp-looking car.
It's a sharp-looking car.
They really struck a balance
They did.
between heritage and modernity.
And under the hood.
Under the hood, things got even more interesting.
How so?
Well, you still had those potent V8 options
Okay.
with the SS and the ZL1 models, pushing those boundaries of performance.
But they embraced
They did.
smaller, more efficient engines.
Recognizing those changing demands of the market.
Right. The introduction of that turbocharged four-cylinder engine,
Yeah.
that was a big change.
It was a bold move considering that V8 legacy.
What was the thinking behind that?
Well, I think it was a strategic decision driven by several factors.
Okay.
First, there was that growing pressure to improve fuel economy,
Makes sense.
reduce emissions.
Yeah.
And second, a smaller turbocharged engine offered a different kind of performance, one that was more accessible and better suited for everyday driving,
Go us about.
broadening the Camaro's appeal,
Right.
attracting a wider range of buyers,
But still
delivering that thrilling driving experience.
Exactly. And don't underestimate that turbocharged four-cylinder.
Don't.
It packed a punch.
It did. It offered plenty of performance for most driving situations.
It did.
It was a great option for those who wanted a sporty coupe,
Yeah.
but didn't necessarily want the fuel consumption of a V8.
Right. And it allowed them to offer the Camaro at a lower price point,
Exactly.
which made it more accessible to more people.
Right.
I've heard great things about the handling of this generation.
Oh, the handling is fantastic.
What makes it so special?
Well, that lighter, stiffer platform of
Yeah.
sixth generation made a huge difference.
Okay.
This was the most agile and responsive Camaro yet,
Wow.
capable of carving through corners with incredible precision.
So they were still focused on improving that.
Absolutely. They
Mhm.
continued to refine the suspension
Okay.
and the chassis tuning, making it even more capable on the track.
So even with the rise of EVs and alternative powertrains,
Mm-hmm.
the Camaro is still a force to be reckoned with.
It is.
It's amazing
It is.
to think about how far it's come.
I know.
From those humble beginnings in the 1960s.
To now.
It's a real testament
It is.
to that enduring appeal of the Camaro formula.
It's a car that has always evolved with the times. It embraces new technology,
It does.
adapts to those changing market demands,
But it stays true.
but it always stays true to those performance roots.
It's a fascinating story
It is.
of innovation,
Resilience.
resilience,
And that relentless pursuit of driving excellence.
and that's what makes it so special.
Absolutely.
As we've gone through this journey through Camaro history, what's really struck me is how it's become more than just a car. It's a cultural icon,
Yeah.
a symbol of American ingenuity performance, and that enduring passion for pushing the limits.
It really is. The Camaro has found its way into movies, music TV shows,
It has.
the hearts of countless enthusiasts.
It has.
It represents a certain spirit, a love for the open road and the thrill of driving.
And I think it's that spirit that makes its future so intriguing.
Yeah.
We're entering a new era of automotive innovation with electrification, self-driving technologies,
Right.
all on the horizon.
Mhm.
The challenge for the Camaro is how to hold on to that emotional connection,
Yeah.
that visceral appeal, while still embracing the future.
It's a tall order.
It is.
But if any car can pull it off, I
Yeah.
think it's the Camaro.
I think so too.
It has this history of defying expectations, adapting to change, and coming out stronger on the other side.
With those early days,
Right.
born from a need to catch up with the Mustang,
Right.
not only did it catch up,
Uh-huh.
but it carved its own path. Became an icon in its own right.
It did?
And it didn't just survive those wild years of the oil crisis,
Well,
the emissions regulation.
Yeah.
Found ways to innovate,
It did.
reinvent itself.
Absolutely.
And that set the stage for these performance powerhouses we see today.
Exactly. And that's the Camaro's legacy, isn't it? It's not just about horsepower or lap times.
Right.
It's about that relentless drive to improve,
Yeah.
that refusal to be boxed in by convention.
Uh-huh.
It's about capturing the spirit of its time
Yeah.
while blazing a trail for the future.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of the Chevrolet Camaro, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this?
I think it's this. The Camaro is a testament to the enduring power of passion and innovation.
Yeah.
It's a story of adaptation,
Mhm.
of pushing boundaries, and of never losing sight of that emotional connection
Right.
that makes driving such a powerful experience.
Absolutely.
And whatever the future holds, I'm confident the Camaro will continue to be a symbol of that spirit for generations to come.
I couldn't have said it better myself. A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this incredible ride through the history of the Chevrolet Camaro. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did. And remember to tune in to Vintage Car Chronicles every day for more deep dives into the world of automotive legends. Until next time, keep those engines revving